Good morning from Coldwater Homestead. Got a couple of things I want to touch base on today. Basic Starting your gardens. This is the time of year it's time to start looking at your seeds. Peppers should be in at this point into your seed trays. If you're planting different types of flowers and even some of the perennials that like echinacea or some of these things, and if you're going to start them by seed, onions, uh, all should be going by this point, at least started and in their plug trays. I kind of want to talk about your gardening and your pantry and why the two of them coincide. And it's important to give, when you're giving thought to your garden and what you're planting, uh, and how you're going to use it down the road, and how you're going to store it, how you're going to put it up so that you have it for the next winter. Uh, Actually, speaking of storing and canning, did the video last 2 days ago, I want to say, on the bone broth. It is all finished. It's all canned up. Actually, I've got to pull my rings, date my jars, then get them into the pantry. Uh, my Everybody has a different preference on storing canned goods in your pantry with rings or without rings. I'm a believer of storing without rings for many reasons. I can get into that another day because I want to focus kind of on pantry essentials and what you want to have in your pantry, and also what you're doing for your gardening. I am a very strong believer of plant what you eat, store what you eat. Uh, that's important to do. And with the way everything is going right now in our world, uh, getting yourself 3, 4, 5 months worth of stores in your pantry to be safe. There's a lot of things with supply chains and food shortages. I think it's very important that some of that starts to get focused on for people that haven't really given that much thought yet. Uh, Real quick list of what I think should be in your pantries as far as basics goes. Beans, lentils, rice. Make sure you're storing them properly. There's a ton of videos that are out there about food grade buckets and mylar bags and how to properly store foods so that they'll last the longest possible. That's out there. Your flour, wheat berries, that's another really good thing to store in your pantry. Give consideration to before you actually package away your flowers. Take 3, 4 days, put them into a freezer. That'll kill all the weevils and bugs and stuff that you don't even realize most people are in your flowers. And they'll store for a much longer time without them being able to function in the flower. Another very important thing to store is sugars and sweeteners. Honey. Honey, try to find a local source. Raw, natural honey, it'll store forever. Will not go bad on you. You can open it in 100 years and your honey will still be good. Even if it's crystallized, you warm it up, it's still there. Maple syrup. Shelf life on that one is a long time. I don't know how long specifically, but it'll go out there. Let's say 20 years. Stored properly, very easily can keep maple syrup for a very long time as well. And then sugar. Sugar is another one stored properly, just does not go bad. It might firm up and get hard, but it breaks back apart. It's the beauty of sugar. I personally store cane sugar. That tends to be my favorite. Other items for your pantry: salts. Believe it or not, we can't live without salt. I store more non-iodized salt than I do iodized salt. And there's a lot of different types of salts. The pink Himalayan salts, sea salts, pickling salts. You know, one of the reasons that I store less iodized salt than I do regular salt is that I like to be able to preserve meats using salts. There is a process to cure and preserve meats that'll last. I've got some that are hanging in my pantry that I was working on 3 years ago. You can still shave meat off of these things, and they're being stored in dry storage in a pantry. Uh, it's not something you're going to eat a ton of. It's more one of those things that if you're going out hiking and you need to get those electrolytes back in your system and some protein, it's a great source. Yeast is another one for baking breads. Important to have sitting on a shelf. Your oils and your fats, you've got to be somewhat careful with this because they can go rancid. I think learning to make your own tallows and your own oils and learning to render is a great skill to have. It's something that I also do personally. I've done everything from bear fats to emu oil to deer fats, cow, pig, pretty much you name it. I've tried different ways of rendering it and storing it and creating product with it. Powdered milk, that's a shelf stable product again, especially if you have young kids. And if we get to a point where you may not be able to get this stuff at the grocery stores, it's nice to have it sitting on a shelf. Same with eggs. I have not personally done this, but glassing eggs, it's something that I plan to do this coming summer. My uncle actually glassed eggs over the course of last summer and was very successful with it, and has been using his glassed eggs during the molt and when the chickens slow down due to shorter days. So it's great for him. He has them sitting on a shelf and he's able to store them. Whole nother topic that obviously I can get into at some point on another video. Baking powder, baking soda, products that can be used for multitudes of things. Rice and oats, also extremely important to have sitting on your shelves. White rice is much more shelf stable and will last much longer than brown rices. But oatmeal, those types of products stored properly, they can last almost indefinitely. I mean, and it's nice to have, once again, if all of a sudden we can't get foods, if something happens with supply chains, which we saw last year, and I mean, when COVID hit, there was issues with that. It's important to know your family is going to be okay. Tying it all back into the gardens, like I had said in previous videos, my gardening plan for this year versus last year and the years before is different because I still have some of my foods that I have higher numbers of stores in. Like I made a salsa 2 years ago, that a fresh salsa canned, and I've got enough of that sitting in my pantry that I don't need to grow a lot of extra tomatoes because I've got enough sitting there right now, in my opinion. Everybody wants different levels. I might eat 10 jars of salsa in a year. So I've got enough sitting there that I can kind of skip making salsa this year and maybe focus my attention on canning more. I don't have a lot of beans, for instance. And green beans are something that's really important. Also peas. That's another one that I'd like to store up a bunch of this year and can. Because I think it's important to have. I personally shoot for about a year's supply to feed my family. Unfortunately, if things got really bad and people were to show up on my doorstep that are my family, it could get very difficult at times because every extra mouth cuts back what you have stored. That's something you want to keep in mind when you're planning a pantry and how you plan your pantry. And I definitely encourage things in pantries to, if we're in hard times, it's nice to sometimes treat yourself to something special. You may be a big fan of Oreos, so have some Oreos that if we're having issues for 3 months and you're struggling financially, or you lost your job and you're eating out of your pantry, um, have something in it that you can treat yourself with. It's a good thing to do. I'll throw out a mention also that probably middle to end of May, I'm working on putting together a weekend for different classes throughout the course of a weekend. Probably started on a Friday and run it through a Sunday, and be covering topics from canning to basic first aid to herbalism, and making tinctures. And let me know in the comments if this is something that's interesting to you and you'd be interested in participating in this. It's a lot of work to put together an event like that, and I think that if you want to learn more, I'm happy to work on organizing and putting something together for that. Especially working together with people in the communities. It's a very important thing. But I will leave that where it is today. Start your gardens. Get your gardens going now. Get your plants in soils. Look at organic. I'm from personal experience over years of gardening. What you think may be helping you, these miracle grows and these chemicals going on gardens, they will kill your soils. Amending your soils naturally, and making sure that your soils are balanced is very important. So even right now, we can be working on that stuff. I know that we're already starting out in our greenhouse to turn over some of the beds. I'm going to be doing some soil testing to see where I'm lacking. I planted peas and beets, for instance, last fall that are still growing in my greenhouse right now. And they're putting nitrogen and other things back into the soils, which is helping. But look around, get to know people, know your farmers, know where you can get some organic compost, for instance. You'll find people are very, very willing to talk and work with you to try to help you do better, and be able to be that little bit more self-sufficient. So anyways, have a great day. Again, from Coldwater Homestead. Like, subscribe, share the video, hit that thumbs up. It helps with things from everything I'm being told. So I look forward to the next conversation. Have a good day.